start with the central angle. So a central angle is an angle with a vertex at the center and two sides that are radii. Okay, radii just plural for radius. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a picture of this. It's an angle with a vertex at the center. So we have the center of our circle. We'll just call it circle P. And then the two sides are radii. And remember, a radius is a segment that goes from the center of the circle to a point on the circle. And we have two of them. So my first radius there is PA. My second radius is PB. So angle APB is a central angle. Okay, the next one is our inscribed angle. So an angle with a vertex on the circle. And two sides that are chords. So this time that vertex is on the circle. So we have some point on the circle. We'll call it point J. And then the two sides are chords. And what's a chord? Anybody remember what a chord is? It's a segment with both endpoints on the circle. So we're going to extend a segment from point J, bless you, 2 times. So we have two different chords, chords JA and chord JB. So that angle AJB is what we call an inscribed angle. So central angle, the vertex is the center. Inscribed angle, the vertex is on the circle. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about an arc. And an arc is a portion of the edge of the circle defined by two endpoints. So we're talking about a portion of the edge of our circle defined by two endpoints, meaning we have 2 points on the circle. Call one point L, or excuse me, W, 1 point L. And we're talking about the portion between W to L, so right along the edge. Okay. So this is arc WL, and our symbol is to actually take our letters and put an arc over it. We can also call this arc LW. Doesn't matter the order in which you define it. Okay, so you can say arc WL or arc LW. Okay, so that's just a basic definition for an arc. Within our arcs, we have 3 different types of arcs. The first one is called a minor arc. And a minor arc is an arc with a measure less than 180 degrees. Okay, so since it's an arc, we're talking about a portion of the edge of the circle, but its measure is less than 180 degrees. Well, what do we know about one time around the circle? How many degrees is that? 360. So 180 degrees, is that more or less than half the circle? Anyway, so if it's less than 180 degrees, we have to be less than half the circle, right? So if we're talking about some arc, we'll call one endpoint Z. The other endpoint can't be more than halfway around the circle. Okay, so we'll say that this is endpoint S. So how do I know which one I'm talking about? Again, because this is a minor arc, we want to go from Z to S going clockwise. If we go from Z to S going counterclockwise, that's more than 180 degrees. So make sure you're paying attention to the direction that you're going. And with minor arcs, we always use 2 letters to name the arc. So in this case, this would be arc ZS, or we can call it arc SZ, doesn't matter. So if that's a minor arc, what do you think a major arc is? Greater than 180, right? So an arc with a measure greater than 180 degrees. Okay, so let's still take the same endpoints that we did up above with our minor arc, Z and S. But if I want this to be a major arc, which way do I have to go from Z to S? We're going to go counterclockwise. Okay. So the question is, how do we know if I want the smaller portion or the bigger portion? Okay, we need a way to denote the difference between the two. So with a major arc, what we're going to do is somewhere on that arc, we're going to have another point on there. We'll just call this point E. So with a major arc, we have to use 3 letters. So there are two different ways we can name this major arc. One of them is arc ZES, or we can call it SEZ. Okay. So are we okay with the difference between minor arc and major arc? Okay. Last one is a semicircle. So what do you think a semicircle is? We had less than 180, we had greater than 180, so now we are equal to 180. Okay, so half of a circle, right? So this is an arc with endpoints on the diameter. Because what does a diameter do to a circle? Cuts it in half. Okay, so if we're talking about a diameter, that means we must have the center of our circle, P. We have a chord that goes through the center. That's the definition of a diameter. It's a chord that passes through the center. So we'll call this diameter UG. How do we know if we're talking about the top half UG or the bottom half UG? What do we need? How did we know on the major arc that we needed to go counterclockwise? What did we put on there? We put another point on there. So we need to put another point somewhere on our circle so we know if we're going to talk about the top half or the bottom half. Okay, so I'll just put a point over here. I'll call it point K. So a semicircle, we also need to use 3 letters. Okay, and semicircles, their measure is equal to 180. So what's the name of this arc? UKG, or what? GKU. We cannot call it UG or GU because we don't know if we're talking about the top half or the bottom half. All right.